When the sun scorches this land, every creature must choose stay or leave. The giants of the river have never left this place. Until today. The migration begins. Not by choice, but for survival. Through cracked, dry mud, through a parched river, they set out. No map. No guide. Only instinct to lead the way. This is not an adventure. This is a silent battle. To breathe. To live. Even for just one more season. Traces on the river, the migration of the giant hippos. Southern Africa is entering the dry season. The sky is almost cloudless. The sun hangs overhead from morning to night, pouring relentless heat onto the earth. Dry winds sweep across the savanna and the empty riverbeds, carrying the smell of cracked soil, hardening mud, and the damp rot of dead trees and grass. Everything is exhausted from the lack of water. At this moment, the river, the lifeline of this land, is vanishing. Once it was a vast, cool ribbon of water, winding through thick grasslands and sparse forests. There, hundreds of creatures coexisted, from crocodiles and birds to herds of antelope, elephants, and especially the massive hippos. Hippos don't just live near water, they live in it. Their bodies are unique. Large, heavy, and highly sensitive to heat. They have thick skin but lose water easily. If exposed too long under the sun without water to cool them, their skin dries out, cracks, and can even lead to death. Because of this, in the dry season, when water recedes, life for hippos becomes incredibly tough. Shrinking pools leave hippos with no place to soak. They start to crowd, push, and grow tense and irritable. Large males often fight over territory, leading to more frequent clashes. Calves get stuck in mud or trampled when chaos erupts. The river that once sustained them now becomes a stifling, dangerous place. And then, at some point, the hippos begin to leave. This is rare. Hippos aren't a species that travels far. They settle around a stretch of river or lake for years. But now, with the riverbed dry and the heat growing harsher, they are forced to move. not to find new territory, not to breed, but simply to survive. Hippos aren't seasonal migrants. They don't leave to find greener pastures or follow rains as antelopes or elephants do. Their whole lives are tied to a familiar riverbank, where they are born, grow, and reproduce. But even loyalty has its limits. This isn't a migration, but an escape. Their massive bodies, nearly 2 tons, aren't built for long journeys. Hippos can swim well, but walking dozens of kilometers under scorching heat makes them more vulnerable than ever. So nighttime is the only time they can move. When the heat subsides and the ground holds some moisture, the hippo herd leaves their temporary refuge, quietly heading toward distant waters they can only sense through instinct. By day, the journey pauses. They seek shelter, any remaining puddle, no matter how dirty, shallow, or dangerous. It might be a nearly dry swamp, where high temperatures make the water reek, its surface covered in green algae and rotting foam, but the hippos must plunge in. Even if it means lying beside crocodiles, squeezing in with turtles, or submerging next to decaying animal carcasses, they must find a way to survive until nightfall. This is a cycle repeated daily, moving at night, hiding by day, facing exhaustion, hunger, and the risk of attack. For the first few days, the herd maintains order, but gradually as the sun lingers longer, as filthy puddles grow scarcer, their social rules begin to fray. Hippos typically have a loose herd structure, each individual keeping a certain distance. But now when puddles are too small to hold their bodies, they're forced to cram into tight spaces, side by side. And that's when tension starts to build. Clashes happen often, not over food, but over every square meter of mud where they can submerge. Some hippos grow more aggressive, attacking others suddenly over the slightest bump. These scuffles make the herd more chaotic. At night, when the air cools, they resume moving. But the mood has changed. No more unity, no more coordination. Just lone individuals, heading toward a vague hope, a place with water, though none know where it lies. Each step is not just a physical challenge, but a mental grind. Sometimes the herd stops at a low patch of land, hoping it signals underground water. But the ground is dry and hard as stone. Hope fades and their gazes turn wary, distrusting each other. Yet amid the chaos and suspicion, something strange happens. The herd doesn't break apart. They still move together. No one commands, but all understand. If they split up, they stand no chance. As they travel farther, the herd grows eerily quiet. No more familiar roars to stay connected. No more playful splashes from calves. Then one afternoon, as the light turns golden, something unexpected happens. A hippo stops, not from exhaustion, but because it senses something. Not a clear smell, not a visible shape. It's a subtle shift in the air, a slightly wetter breeze, softer soil beneath its feet. It stretches its neck, slows its pace, ears twitching, eyes fixed on a low patch of land ahead. Soon after, a faint sound rises, barely audible, like bubbling water or the hum of moisture-loving insects returning. The herd begins to cluster closer. Their steps grow firmer, no longer dragging as before. Heads lift higher, as if checking the direction. And so the herd presses on, this time not out of fear, but with a feeling. Somewhere ahead, life is waiting. Finally, as the moon rises above the low grass, water appears. Not wide, not deep, but it's real. A pool large enough to reflect the moonlight, wet enough to keep skin from cracking, and cool enough to soothe their parched, heavy bodies. The herd stops. A few edge toward the water. Others keep their distance as if instinct urges caution, despite their burning thirst. Then from the darkness in the distance, the first sound rings out. Not water, but a low, hoarse hiss, the unmistakable call of an adult male hippo. It's not alone. This pool is already claimed by another group of hippos. They might have arrived earlier, or they could be old residents who never left. But now they assert ownership, not with fighting, but with glares and sounds. The two largest males face off. No headbutting, no charging. They only roar, circle in the water, churning foam, performing a silent ritual of challenge. The herd behind stays still. No one dares enter the water, not out of fear, but because they know if a fight breaks out, this pool will become a bloodbath. A calf edges closer to its mother, nuzzling her belly, too tired to stand upright. A few young males step back, not retreating, but not joining the fray. And then, the lead male of the new herd does the unexpected. It backs off. Not from weakness, but because it knows if it fights for this, the herd will fall apart. A pool, if won with blood, will no longer mean life. It turns away. Then one by one the others follow. Silent, slow, bitter, but not hopeless. Because something has changed. They know water exists, and that's enough to keep going, though no one knows where the next journey will lead. But something unforeseen happens. Above, the sky shifts. Thick gray clouds roll in fast, like birds skimming the moon. The wind changes, dry leaves swirl, and then a low rumble of thunder echoes from afar. Just seconds later, the first raindrop falls. Rain pours like a torrent. The drying riverbed surges, not with blood, but with life flooding from the sky. Both herds stand frozen, no charging at each other, no fleeing. They tilt their faces upward, eyes that seemed half closed now open wide, catching each drop. The males stop roaring, mothers pull their calves close, and then, without a signal, all plunge into the water. No more boundaries between herds, no more first comers or late comers, no more territory, ownership, or rivalry. Only massive bodies merging as one, in a pool growing larger, in a river coming back to life. Amid the rain, only the low, muffled sound of pink nostrils puffing above the water remains, and an unexpected gentle noise, hippos exhaling in relief. In just one night, the gray-brown savanna sprouts patches of green as fine as moss. The riverbed, once a stinking swamp, swells into a murky but vibrant lake. Beneath its cloudy surface, small fish swim again. Birds swoop to the wet mudflats, and the croak of frogs rings out for the first time in weeks. For the hippos, this is a strange moment. No more journey to pursue, no immediate threat. But they can't return to their old river, now altered, perhaps never to be the same. By day, they bask in the new river, less crowded. The males are less aggressive, though their eyes stay wary. Sometimes a distant roar makes the herd fall silent, ears pricked, instincts still alert. Calves swim closer to their mothers, bolder than days before, but still unsure the world is safe. One morning, the sun rises from behind clouds, its light glinting on the new water, sparkling and calm. No one says it, but the herd feels it. A new chance has begun. Not a full rebirth, but enough to keep living. But peace in Africa is always fragile. The rains seem to end the harsh days. But for predators, it's just the start of a new hunting season. Early that morning, a lone lioness appears at the river's edge. Her eyes are sharp, her gait slow, her fur still matted from the night's rain. She doesn't roar, she only watches. She's not with a pride which makes her more dangerous. Lone lions are often bolder, targeting unusual prey, and the hippo herd, just surviving a grueling migration, is a group not yet recovered. The lioness doesn't aim for adults. She scans the fresh mud for signs of the injured or a weak calf, and she finds one. A calf just a few months old follows its mother to the bank at dawn. The mother is distracted, eyeing a rustling bush with suspicion. And in a fleeting moment, the calf is left behind, just a few steps. And then, the lioness strikes. The calf's scream pierces the air. Mud flies. Adult hippos surge from the water, roaring like thunder. The lioness can't drag the calf away, but she inflicts enough damage before vanishing into the forest. The calf survives, but is visibly weaker. From that day, the herd grows more vigilant. No one ventures to the bank before the sun is high. The males, though exhausted from the journey, take turns guarding at night, unwilling to lose another member. The days that follow pass in caution. Rain no longer falls, but signs of life spread. Strips of new grass blanket the riverbanks. Birds return. Small fish school in the murky water, creating swirls under the sunlight. The hippos stay, but they're not at ease. Water is here, but too shallow. Food exists, but not enough. And threats, lions, crocodiles, even territorial disputes among their own kind still lurk. One afternoon as the sun tilts, a group of senior hippos, experienced individuals, begins to leave. They cross the bank, quietly heading south. The remaining hippos watch, and then, group by group, they follow. This migration isn't like the last, not urgent, not desperate. It's a cautious search, guided by memory, instinct, and survival through many dry seasons. 3 days later, they reach a low area where a small river branch splits off, overlooked after the big rain. There, the water is deeper, the riverbed wider, and most importantly, no predator tracks. Lush grass covers the floodplain. Sparse trees cast natural shade. Kingfishers perch on dry branches, signaling the return of ecological balance. The hippos have found a second chance. The injured calf can now soak in deeper water. The males no longer growl in rivalry, and at each sunset, they sink into the calm water like a ritual of continuation. This journey isn't as grand as the antelope migration, not as complex as the elephant's path, but for hippos, it's a rare shift, a migration not for breeding instinct, but for survival. And now in a forgotten river branch, they found temporary peace.